Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice. Hey everybody, Chad here with Grow Your Practice podcast, and today it's going to be a unique episode. We have back with us Doug Adams. Doug, I think you're a five-timer here now or so on the podcast, so welcome back.
I appreciate it, Chad. Always a fun conversation.
Yeah, great. So thanks for doing this. This is the first of many, and what we're doing, if you're a listener right now, is we are putting together a Titans of Private Practice PT. So what this will end up being is 50 plus leaders within the private practice industry. And we're really asking them a series of questions that are looking at, what is some upcoming trends? What are the most valuable things that practice owners and these leaders in private practice have seen? And really what we'll have in the end is a very valuable compilation of these interview questions for you, the practice owner. So thanks again for doing this, Doug. And I know you put a ton of time into the prep too. So well done.
Thanks. I like the questions. This is going to be a good conversation here. And I think we were saying that, I think you said Tim Ferriss style, like Tools of the Titans. And I read that once a year because it's so nice just to be able to refresh on some of these things and get like some quick highlights.
Yeah. And so just to piggyback off of our prep here, Doug.
Yeah.
How I got to these questions was I took literally the 10 or 11 questions from Tools of Titans. And I asked Claude to modify it. It gave me, it kicked out 10 or 15 questions. I then went back and edited those to, make it more personal, make it
right
how I would ask the question. But no shame in my game here. So the first question is, what is the book or resource that you've recommended most to other practice owners, and why did you make that recommendation?
So I think the first book that I recommend most often is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I think that one of the big reasons with that is I think a lot of business owners don't always think about the processes that get them to places. I think James Clear is really good about not just thinking about goals, but thinking about the processes that get you the goals. And that's where a lot of that comes from. And I think that's something that's really important for business owners to understand that part of it.
Nice. And if I remember correctly, it's the idea of like 1% progress every day, small steps lead to.
Exactly. Right. Like, hey, it takes a while, and goals. I've been on a big goal setting one, because I'll admit when I first read Atomic Habits, it shook my world a little bit because I'm a big goal setter. And he basically, it came off as anti-goals, but I don't think that was really his thing. But the way I've organized that into my own mind now is we actually need goals. Goals are really important, and goals should actually be impossible to do. This is Dr. Ben Hardy, The Science of Scaling. He talks a lot about that, just for another book recommendation since we're talking books. But if you set an impossible goal, you have to do things differently to get there, and you have to change your thought. So I think that those two together, like set an impossible goal and then identify the processes that you're going to just chip away at and get closer and closer to that. Even if that goal isn't realistic, you're still going to be where you want to be.
Yeah. Wow. Kind of crazy. In the doc, you had also Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why.
Yes, Start With Why.
It kind of serendipitous, but I had this laying on my desk. This was not purposeful.
That's we got our copies right next to each other here. Yep.
I wrote a long post yesterday and even recorded a session mentioning that before I looked in your doc here. And just did this long social post on really how my why has changed over the last 30 years as a PT. But yeah, funny that you mentioned that, man. That's great.
That is another one that just I think if you don't know why you're starting your business, like you probably need to start there before you even start with process. And I think the other one that I put in there, like I was trying to decide between the three, and I ultimately picked Atomic Habits. But StoryBrand is another one. If you don't know how to talk about your business, then that's something that you really need to do. And I think Donald Miller's StoryBrand is a great book for that as well.
Second, I second everything you said there. But
There you
yeah,
go.
huge story brand fan. Next question: what management tool, system, or purchase under $500 has had the biggest impact on your private practice success?
So this one is probably not what most people are going to think of, but I spent when we first opened my practice Omega Project, and you see I got my Omega Project T-shirt on today instead of my RunDNA one. But when I first opened it, I spent $200 on really nice business cards. And the business cards they didn't have me on there. What they had was the name, and it said free discovery session. And I went and took that to every cross country coach, every athletic trainer. I went to any person that worked with the clients that I wanted to see, runners, and I gave them this and I said, please give these out. And I can't tell you how grateful I was that in the first month of being open, how many of those cards came back to me. And that became like a big sense of pride for me. It's like, all right, it was a risk spending $200 on a business card that I didn't necessarily need, but it was a great way to get people to come back into the practice for this free discovery session.
Nice. So something else that I've been on here is I think a lot of practices underestimate the amount of effort that it takes to make something work. So 200
Yeah.
business cards, $200 in business cards. How many business cards was that?
Oh, it was maybe like 500 or something. I got like a decent quality, like they're pretty nice business cards
You
there.
stepped it up a notch and it had like
Yeah.
foil
Oh
printing and
yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
They had to match the brand.
That's perfect. So you got these, the 500 cards out, and how many of those do you think came back to you?
Oh, I'd like to say it was more than it probably was and exaggerate, but I probably got 25 back or so. But the value of
Amazing.
getting, yeah, the value of each one of those people, like I came to find out later that each person that came to my practice was worth around $4,000.
Yeah.
So that was a great return on investment for me there. I
Yeah.
had a little note about this too, and I became like one of the things I think that this works so well with, and the reason I spent the extra money on it, everyone kind of knows the saying that word of mouth is gold, right? And I think sometimes we should challenge ourselves to think about why that is, and people think about it opposite of the way sometimes I think about it too. Sometimes, yes, the obvious thing is that we trust our friends and our colleagues and our coaches and our medical provider, we trust them. But the reason it works well too is because it's a two-way system. We're giving social capital to the person that's making the referral because they have a person. They have somebody that they can go help you with. And they're incentivized, even if you're not like, I didn't pay those coaches anything. I wasn't doing a, referral for profit kind of thing. It was just, hey, here's a card. If you have somebody that you don't know what to do with, just send them my way and I'll screen them and I'll get them back running as quick as I can. And
Love
I
it.
think like that social capital that you give, and that's why you have to think about that word of mouth. Is like, how do I give social capital to somebody by having them promote me and what my business is?
Yeah. Smart man. Love it. Next question. What was your biggest failure or setback as a leader in private practice that ultimately led to a breakthrough, growth, or learning?
This one, I always think failures are so important, and I had a lot to choose from. So this one was a hard one to pick, but I think the one I ultimately want to say was probably my like biggest or favorite failure here was I almost burnt myself out completely.
When was this?
This was 9 months after starting the practice. We had opened in September, and that like following springtime, things were cooking. We had patients coming in. I didn't want to say no to anybody. So I was literally treating from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. without a lunch break, 4 days a week, just crushing it and crushing myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it was taking a toll on me, it was taking a toll on my family, it was taking a toll on everything, but I was like, I am so successful right now here, and it wasn't because I really was missing the boat, and I wasn't setting up systems. I wasn't working on ways to make that sustainable. I wasn't developing people. So that was my biggest failure, I think, that ultimately led to that breakthrough of you're not a one man show. Like you'll never find the level of success you want by just trying to do it all yourself.
Great. Let's take that one a step farther. And I've talked about me going through something very similar, but a lot of owners do this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Work over lunch, get in the eval, stay at late at night. Do you remember the first or second thing that you did? Like, what were the steps where you were like, "Oh, I'm working at 5 to 9 instead of
Yeah.
9 to 5. I'm working a 16-hour day." How did you start to claim control over your schedule and start doing all the things that led you to your success now? What was the first like one or two steps? What
The
were they?
first step was taking a half an hour for lunch. And I know that that sounds like it's not all that much, but I was getting these massive headaches from basically just being depleted. So a half an hour lunch was about like the first step that I could really take because I kept justifying, like, we need the money. I can't lose too much money, and then slowly started to say, okay, hey, if I'm seeing somebody at 5, I need to be done. Like I started limiting myself to a 12-hour day,
Nice.
and just slowly starting to do that. And I think if you do that step by step, like one of the things, and I heard it phrased this way in a book called Meditation for Mortals, and it was like, what's the most manageable chunk that you could actually do? Right? If you have to work on something, if giving yourself 30 minutes seems reasonable, like go to that first. If it's scheduling 15 minutes after every 3 or 4 patients so that you can go to the bathroom is reasonable, like start doing that. But just start with what feels reasonable and then you'll build from there.
Almost like a baby step.
Yeah. Well, what did you do? How did you take control?
Well, I was highly motivated because my wife just addressed me directly, and I was 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And yeah, and then I mean, by the time I get home, it was late. We had a very young marriage, and had a son. We were expecting a second, and she was like, "Listen, like, glad finances are okay. Glad the business, there's demand for your services, but I don't like this deal wasn't like you do that and then your kids grow up not knowing you." She was like,
Yeah.
so we started with a dinner. It was like 4 nights a week,
Mm.
the dinner at like 5:30. So then like I had to adjust my schedule. Then I started doing like Tuesday afternoons completely blocked off from treatment time. And yeah, we ended up doing like a little trade where I would go home and then I think she was volunteering as a counselor. So then like she could have like some out of the home time. And then that's modified over the years, but it was like, just let's grab an hour
Yeah.
like here and there and figure it out. And guess what? All of those patients that absolutely needed me to be there at 8 p.m. at night, they started coming in at 5 or 6 or whatever. Like
Yeah.
they figured it out, and we didn't crash the business. And like all that story, that narrative that I've been telling myself, just kind of came to a gradual, recognition, cognition, that same exact thing that you did, just a little bit of control here and there. And yeah, so are you still treating 40 plus hours a week?
No. No, I am not. No.
Yeah, I think you shared. You have that under pretty good control today.
That is under control. Yes. Yeah.
Next question. Do you have a personal go to mantra or a favorite saying?
This is probably depending on which book I'm reading is what I'm focused most on there and some of those mantras, and I've evolved those mantras over time. But one that I think I go back to a lot, and I will often let this kind of fade and come back together, is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Mhm.
And I think that's really important because everyone can have an idea of what they want to do, and then they don't ever put it down on paper. And it never gets out of their head. And in our heads, the gaps are easy for us to fill. We're like, oh, I'll figure that out. But when you put it down on paper and you actually say, okay, hey, I want to get my team and I just did this at RunDNA yesterday. We have this big, huge, lofty goal that we have to accomplish before the end of the year. And we just had to write down all the steps because they were just in my head. And everyone was like, well, what are we doing? How are we going to get there? What do we need to do? And it's like, it's a scary place up there, people. Like, we need to figure this out. So, like, getting people involved and getting the plan there. If you don't have an actual plan for it, it's not going to work. And sometimes it'll work better. And most times, though, it probably will not work at all. So, you got to get things on a paper in whatever way works for your brain, but get it on paper.
Love it. What was your best investment in your practice, time, money, education, or energy?
I think the best investment is actually in my people. I think that's the number one thing that you can really do of getting your people trained, of doing in services, having a Monday meeting. Like we do a standard meeting every Monday, 11:30 to 12. It keeps connectivity. It's the whole team. We're smaller. We're 2 clinics, so it's a little easier to get all of them together, and we're 3 miles apart. So it's pretty easy to do that. But having that connectedness and connecting the people and always supporting the people, like anytime I spend on people, it's always a great return because they are the front of the business. They are the ones that are out there doing it, and I want to make sure that they have everything that they need. So when you invest in them, you're always going to get a great return.
Smart. What's an unconventional practice management approach or weird habit that works surprisingly well for you?
I alluded to this earlier with goals, but one of the things that my wife and I do every Sunday is we have a board meeting. And we started calling it the board meeting because I would literally stand in front of a whiteboard and I have goals written down. There you go, whiteboards. I've started actually, you see, I've got these windows around. I've actually started writing with chalk markers all over my windows now. So I look like a crazy person. But we would stand in front of the board, and I had 5 year, 3 year, 1 year, 1 month, 1 week, Monday through Sunday, the goal and what we needed to do for every single day. And there was a column for family first, then there was a column for health, then there was a column for clinic, column for RunDNA. Like there was a column for each area of my life. And I would go in and identify every single day, if I accomplished nothing else in that day, what is the purpose of that day? And that is something that I have been doing since it's over a decade now. And it has been huge for me to achieve those 5 year goals that I've set. I've achieved every single one of them along the way. And they weren't small goals with it because I just was looking at it every single day. And that made a huge difference for me.
How's your wife involved?
She is central to that. Well, it's evolved. Yes, my wife.
How do you interact with her?
She's an athletic trainer, but she's now in an athletic director role, and so she's full time working as well. And a lot of that board meeting has evolved into like, okay, who's picking up who's letting the dog out at lunch, who's doing this, who's doing that. But we do really set the intention for the week and say, hey, what went well about last week? Like, what do we need to focus on for this week? Like, she's back in preseason. So this week, the focus was we depleted our freezer last week. We ate every like frozen food that we had in the house because it was just all hands on deck. Like, so the focus for this week, we really need to be better about meal prep and shopping and planning and doing those types of things. And that's the family thing. It's like, hey, we're not going to function well if we're not fueling well. So she's very, and then she also helps me to stay sane with not pushing myself. And I still fall back into that over treating failure where I will just keep doing, and not allowing time for reflection or time for recovery in between. So she keeps me honest.
Sounds like a good partner.
Very good.
In the last 5 years, what new mindset, system, or approach has most improved your practice's performance and your quality of life?
I think this is a huge one that is very important, that we have to focus on value. That is kind of the mindset that is really important. I think even when we started my practice, it's a cash-based practice, and we really thought about what we're offering and the value, but really truly embracing that we're not trading time for money. We are offering value. What is the value of somebody that is, I caught up with somebody the other day. I'm coaching cross country, and a past patient's kid is on the team, and he came out and he was like, I can't thank you enough. I was, 14 weeks into my training plan. I had 2 weeks left until my marathon. I put so much time and effort into this, and I got injured, and I didn't think I was going to be able to participate. And now I went, and not only did I participate and run without pain, but I set a new PR, and that made everything worth it. He's like, I would have paid you, $5,000 for this. And this is a guy that's he's not a high profile lawyer. He's an hourly wage kind of guy that is just, salt of the earth, works hard, but really loves running and wants to do that. So that shift of saying, I provide a value and I need to focus on delivering as much value as I can and charging appropriately for the value that we are offering there. I think that mindset is something that is huge. Focus on the value you provide and charge accordingly.
Next question is, what advice would you give to a PT about to open their first practice? What conventional wisdom should they ignore? And anything else that you would add to the answer that you just gave around that?
I think, that these next couple of questions, I kind of zoned in on the value aspect of that too. One of the advice that I would give to them is along those same lines, is focus on value, but make sure that you are retaining your clients, right? Like when you go to your physician doesn't discharge you. Your dentist doesn't discharge you. Like, why are we going on this model where we're letting insurance companies tell us that, okay, this person can only see you for 12 visits and then you need to ignore them. You need to act like they didn't exist anymore. That's what we're kind of conditioned to do in physical therapy practice, is find somebody, do what they need to do in the short term, and then call me again if you ever need me type thing. But it's like, why not help them live well? Why not help them find new levels of health for themselves and be that source? We are so well trained to be that source, but we shy away from it because we're confined by some of these insurance timeframes for it. So I would give similar advice to what we said here, that you need to focus on keeping them and, talking, like Chad Joe is great about laying out the processes and the numbers and things like that too. But most physical therapists don't even know what CAC means, like cost of acquiring a customer. Yeah. Because they just think it's going to come from a physician or from word of mouth. And they don't even understand, like, it takes money and time and effort to get a new customer in your door. So why are we going to discharge that person ever? Because they already know, like, and trust you.
Yeah. I could go on way too much of a soapbox there. But the problem that I think every clinician should think about is we spend so much time investing in our own education and knowledge.
Right.
It is easy to, most of us when we first come out of school, it's like, oh, if I just get this certification, if I just get this, these letters after my name, then I will have made it. Then I'm competent. Then I'm more valuable in the marketplace. And right now I'm not. It's almost like
Right.
an imposter syndrome.
Yes.
That at the same time, most of us want to be able to pay our student loans and get an apartment or a townhouse and get a car and travel and
Yeah.
have. So it's quite a conundrum, and most of the time, as we're working through that, and especially if I'm working with a young clinician, it's, well, how can you be more valuable to the person in front of you right now? And if we're investing, if it costs us $100, $200 to put somebody in the exam room for you, and you can't even present a plan of care that they're going to buy, 8 sessions or two
Yeah.
sessions or whatever it is, this is going to be a problem. And
Yeah.
usually uh, they'll then reach and ask for more resources, but it's really a mindset that we have. And I love what you talked about there in terms of focusing on value. Think about the value that we're bringing to the table now and how we can deliver more. When we don't do that, that patient goes elsewhere, and
Yeah.
they get, I mean, they're still in need. They still have wants and desires, and they will just go to another clinician or maybe even another modality or treatment type, another industry, in order to get the answer that they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was actually putting together a presentation for something earlier today, and it's like the problem is it, and this I don't know, I might be jumping the gun on the next question here, so maybe ask the next question, then I'll jump into this here because I think it's kind of in line with the same one here.
What are the worst pieces of advice, or what's the worst piece of advice you commonly hear given to owners in our profession?
This is going to be a little unconventional here with it, but
Good. Yeah.
yes, I think a lot of people come out and they say, get a bunch of different experiences. See, I'm like, no, go inch wide and a mile deep. Try to differentiate yourself somehow. Don't just go and try to learn to treat everything. You've got plenty of time in your career. Like, go deep into something here, become a specialist, create value for yourself, and go all in on that here and find a mentor to do it with. Like, find somebody that's doing what you want to do, go for that. You're not going to be able to do it right away. It's going to take time to develop that. But if you're not trying to focus on being a specialist, then you really don't offer much value, and you're never going to be able to dictate what your career looks like. If you want to determine the type of clients that you want to see, if you want to determine what your hours are, if you want to determine how much you're getting paid, then you need to be special.
Yeah.
You don't need to just go and get a bunch of diverse experience. You need to go and actually be really good at something and dive all in and read every article you can find, go to workshop, go to classes. Don't just take the Con Ed that's like click through and collect my CEUs. Go to an actual course, meet people, get experience, volunteer, do whatever it takes, but become good at something. Don't just be burned out from school and just kind of be like, oh, sure, I'll treat whoever comes my way.
Yeah. You said unconventional. I'm going to go with brutal truth,
Yeah.
based on real world experience. It's exactly what you've done. We did similar here in the beginning in building the practice. Just, yeah, went crazy on SI joint dysfunction, and it was great.
And, it gets you to see, the general patients are going to find you because of that. It's the same reason, why does a big PT company sponsor a professional sports team? Because it raises, rising tide raises all ships with it. So it's like, yeah, I can treat other things too. And the
Yeah.
principles that you learn being specialized in one thing are going to transfer over to other things. But go deep on something. Don't just go surface level on lots of things and offer no real value outside of, especially now with modern day. I've been tracking AI over the past couple of years, and the answer I get for the same question I ask every 6 months is hey, I'm having Achilles pain, what should I do? It's getting to be a really good answer. And
Yes.
if you're not better than the answers that you can get on ChatGPT, you should be scared.
Yep. Yeah. I want to double click on that, but before I do, so what have you gotten better at saying no to as a leader? And how do you protect your time and energy with everything that you're doing? Because you're really running two businesses.
Yes. Yeah, I think saying no in general is really hard, but it is this saying no to the special request. I mean, I had actually two this morning. People that text me and like, hey, can you see me for this? Can you do this? You're the specialist. I want to see you. And being able to say no and say, I have trained my staff. I have done an excellent job with them. I would trust any one of them to see me. So it feels hard sometimes as you grow, as you get deeper, you're going to get more and more of those requests. Like, no, I want to see Doug because Doug created the system and I want to go to the specialist. I want to see the expert. And there are times that you do have to say yes to that, and you can't say no all the time, but you do need to be able to say no when you've got a team that you've trained and done well. So that's something that's been hard for me to say no because I really valued myself early in my career by the number of people that were actually like requesting me by name. That was kind of like how I judge what I just talked about going inch wide, mile deep. But I've had to learn to say no to that too.
When you're feeling overwhelmed by the demands of running your practice, what do you do to regain focus and clarity? You talked about reset and not refresh, replenish. Oh, what was the word you
Yeah.
said? Was it
Uh, Reflect.
okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, what questions do you ask yourself? How do you stay centered?
For me, a run is always probably the best way to just get it there. I don't listen to any music when I run. I don't do any. I just want to go and just really let my mind wander and think about things and see what kind of comes up and give myself some questions. But one question I typically ask myself is, what would this look like if it were easy? Like this is a problem, this is a challenge, but if I could solve this problem easily, like what would that look like? Like how would I get over that challenge, that feeling of being overwhelmed? And if I think about that a lot of times, like, well, this would have to be true and that would have to be true. It's like, okay, well, what do I need to do in order to make that true? Well, all right, you need to do this, and you just work your way back from how would this problem be easy to solve to what do I need to do when I'm done this run?
Great. I have a bonus question. Are you down?
Yeah, I'm down
Okay.
always.
What's a trend you see influencing private practice in the next 5 years that you
Hmm.
see a lot of other owners either not talking about or they're potentially overlooking it?
Yes, we are in such an interesting age with fast evolving technology. I think a lot of people are talking about the AI trend and what that's going to do. I think that influences even more why I'm urging people to be specialists. That has a big influence on that as well, because if you're not, you're really going to have to focus on that. But I think we're going to start to see more consolidation in the physical therapy profession here. I think we're actually fairly fragmented, considering that even the largest PT clinics, multi-site clinics here, don't represent a huge portion of the whole there. That we're going to start to see consolidation of that. So I think the trend, and I've been saying this for a while, is that specialty clinics and clinics that focus on more than just the absence of pain are going to be the facilities that are left standing at
Hmm.
the end of the day because it's going to be different. And I think the trend that, what owners really need to be looking at is how am I just not keeping up with the times, but how am I getting ahead of it? How am I being that whole source? And saying it because AI is great and we're seeing this evolvement of technology, but I know personally, I am also thinking, okay, AI is for surface level, but people are still social beings and they're going to want some human interaction. but their standard for why they would use human interaction is going to get higher. So if you don't have something really unique or really valuable, they're just going to go to technology and feel a little dismayed about it. But if you offer something that's even 10% better than they can get out there, you're going to get a lot more of that, and people are going to want that social. I think we're going to see that that's going to be a little bit of the swing on the other side of going to AI for everything, but also really wanting that in-person community too that is higher level.
Doug Adams, you're a great man. Thanks for doing
Likewise,
this.
Dad. Yeah, this is great. I always have fun with these.
Awesome.